O God, what are we to do when your peace confronts the peace of this world? When your teachings cause people to raise arms? When your person is made into weapons by all sides? Where do we find peace, O God of peace? The fact that the word of the Bible is human and time-conditioned makes it no less of God. In the Bible, God communicates himself to the extraordinary extent that one can say that there is something of God in the words. Jesus, as fully divine and fully human, has been rejected not only consciously by non-believers, but also unconsciously by believers. The non-believer regards the fully divine as incompatible with the human. The believer often regards the fully human as incompatible with the divine. To the biblical exception to the full humanity of Jesus, without sinning in Hebrews 4:15, are sometimes added without ignorance, without temptation, and without limitations of worldview. Consequently, if another Christian who believes in the divinity of Jesus insists that Jesus did not know all things, did not foresee the distant future, and was tempted, having to learn obedience, Christological fundamentalists will accuse that person of denying that Jesus is the Son of God. Small wonder that if a believer in revelations and inspiration insists that the biblical word is human, time-conditioned, and subject to limitations and error, biblical fundamentalists will accuse that person of denying that the Bible is the Word of God. St. John Chrysostom recognized what was involved when he wrote that it was for the sake of our salvation that God expressed himself in the Scriptures, where the ordinariness of the words is made necessary by our limitations. Raymond E. Brown, The Critical Meaning of the Bible. Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and one's foes will be members of one's own household. Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever does not take up the cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Those who find their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. Matthew 10:34 through 39. O Lord, is this the peace that you gave to your disciples? Instead of keeping everything the way it always has been, this talk of setting a son against a father, a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law would mean chaos for us. How are we to tell the world to seek peace when following you divides us so severely, breaking up our families as we know it? How are we to convince our friends who value family above all else that following you will mean that they have to love you more than their loved ones? What do we do, O Lord, when they laugh at us and tell us to get real? How are we to say to them that loving you is far more important than loving their children? Even in churches, Lord, many devout people have already told us that they are not willing to go this far. So in this world, where everyone is convinced that loving and caring for their families is the most important priority, how are we to speak to them about what you're telling us here? Oh, dear Lord, do not be angry with me. Be gentle with me when I ask you these questions. As I muster all my courage to find ways to speak of this passage, I find myself cringing, not because I'm unwilling, but because they will turn away from me. O kind Lord, fill me with the Spirit to speak to others about this in wisdom and truth. O my Lord, I have searched high and low, far and wide, for a way to soften this message and make it easy for others to accept it. But the pictures I found made me wonder. A picture of you holding a sword protruding from your mouth, you with sword on one side and olive branch on the other. How am I to witness you as the Prince of Peace, of man of peace, Messiah who brings peace? Last Sunday was far easier, Lord, as we explored the nature of peace you gave to your disciples. Yet even last Sunday, we were following you through troubles of all kinds as the status quo was upset by you everywhere. Those who were in power sought to kill you and eventually succeeded by making Pilate to execute you on the cross. The peace that you gave your disciples was not the maintenance of the status quo where the powerful were flourishing while the poor and the weak were perishing. We realized that peace you gave was to let the poor and those who have been marginalized to enjoy life too, or live life without worries about where their next meal was coming from and fight for every scrap in order to ensure their survival. When you brought God's peace, it did something totally unexpected. Instead of being overjoyed and being received gladly, it caused division. What are we to do, O dear Lord, when we are trying our best to go along in order to get along with others? Yes, as God's reign was beginning to be unveiled through you, Jesus, bringing God's peace or sharing that peace became more than controversial for us. If that was not enough, in today's passage, you articulate the danger of receiving this peace without sugarcoating it. Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace but a sword. How does this statement square with peace we have been desiring? Definitely, clearly, you tell us here what you are bringing. Does this mean that you are giving peace only to those who follow you and not the entire humanity? That, as many Christians are fond of saying, those who are saved will be few, leaving the rest to hell where there is no peace?